Alright, so two things I remembered after I was done with the video is I did not tape off the frame. If you've never done this before, you're going to want to do that. I got really comfortable putting these on so I can do it pretty quick, but I recommend putting the tape on so that you don't scratch your frame up, unless you do it the hard way and take everything apart and sand it. But so just one note there. And the second one is why I ended up going with the Armory Craft. And it's pretty much tolerances and the trigger pad. This is the normal SIG trigger, and you'll notice it's got some wiggle. The Gray Guns trigger, you'll see the pin comes out a little bit. This part's skinnier than the Armory Craft. A little bit of wiggle. And the Armory Craft. To me, it feels like this one has a little bit tighter tolerances, and just the fact that it's so much wider really is why I decided to go with this one over the Gray Guns or the factory trigger. So hopefully this video helps you out if you've been wondering or needed to see somebody else do it, and enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be kind of a part 2 or remake of one of my first videos on how to install an Armory Craft flat face trigger. I've gotten a couple requests and a couple comments saying to turn the music off originally. I put too much into the original videos. I thought putting background music on would be cool and make people like it more, keep their interest, but turns out it just goes over top of everything I'm saying and you can't hear me. So I cut it out shortly thereafter, after a lot of people let me know that they couldn't hear what I was saying. So I'm going to break down this 229 SAS, take the Gray Guns trigger out, and throw an Armory Craft flat face trigger in. If you wonder where my last one went, you can check out Yankee Marshall's videos, and I sent him that trigger along with the Punisher grips for one of his SIGs. So you'll see the tools I got: Torx head for the grip screws, and a nail file, which I cut in half kind of on the sides, that I'm going to be using to file the delrin pin. So again, here it is. I do have coupon codes. Milosh from Armory Craft gave me. Hammer 10 will get you $10 off the flat faced, and Hammer 10C will get you $10 off the curved one. So go check out the website. I'll link it below. And let's get down to taking this guy apart. I don't know which models have the Torx screws exactly and which ones come with the flatheads. The 229 SAS did come with the Torx screws, and all the rest of mine came with the flatheads. So if you got the flatheads, you're not going to use a Torx, you will use a flathead screwdriver to take your grips off. So we'll get these guys off. I don't know why I always take these off before I take my slide off, but I do. So once your slide's off, you're going to be looking at this, your bare frame with all the goodies in it. And I will start by taking the takedown lever off. You push on the outside of it while twisting it, and that will get it to come out. You can wiggle it back and forth. Either way, it doesn't matter. You're not going to hurt anything. And then make sure it's decocked. Take the locking block out. So you're looking like this. Then I'm going to take the trigger bar spring out. You'll see it goes up underneath the trigger bar and in the frame. I'm just going to push it down off of the trigger bar, and then it comes out of the frame nice and easy. Next, we'll take off the hammer strut spring, and strut base. You just got to push it on that little slot and push it up. Make sure you got a good hold on it because it's under pressure. And it just comes off. I know I make that look easy. I've taken these apart 1,000 times, and you'll probably have a little bit more difficulty than that the first time. I can't really explain it any easier than that. Just it's something you're going to have to practice to get down smooth. And then next, we're going to push the pin out that's holding the trigger on. And that comes right out. Take your slide lock off, and now you are looking like this. And if you turn it upside down, give it a little jiggle, your trigger bar is going to come out with your trigger. So half the hard part is already done. The trigger will just fall off the trigger bar. It just rests on there. So we're going to go ahead and put the Armory Craft trigger on like that. And then we're going to stick it in the frame. So you're going to want to put the trigger in the slot first. And just be careful so you don't scratch the side of your trigger. The first trigger I put in, I scratched pretty good. So just be patient and gentle, and she will drop right in. So I took it out and I had fumble fingers and I stuck it back in again, so I didn't waste all your guys' time, but just be patient with it. It took me about 30 seconds off camera to get that guy in there. But you can get it in without taking all of the sear, the hammer, and all that stuff apart. So don't be afraid of having to get in there. You don't really need to. Just be patient with this and don't force it in. It will go in. You just have to find the right angle. So now that that's in there, I'm just going to go ahead and put the hammer pin, not the hammer pin, the trigger pin back in for now, so I can put all the rest of this stuff together. Go ahead and line it up. Again, I'm not worrying about the orientation of the screw to put it back together. I'm just putting it together to hold that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the trigger bar spring back on. Easy to do. Just put the little hook on the spring inside the frame on the long arm of the spring. And then just hook that little hook underneath the tab on the bottom of the trigger spring. You'll see that right there. And that'll put pressure on the trigger bar and the trigger. And then let's see, what do I want to put on next? We'll go ahead and push out the trigger pin a little bit. And then put the slide lock back on. And push the pin back in. So that just dangles freely there. And now I forgot, you need a flathead screwdriver. Well, you don't need one, but it makes it easy. Because you got to line up the pin, the line on the pin, so that the slots, I don't know if you can see them there, are facing this way. And you'll want that line perfectly horizontal so that your locking block will go back on. So just put the spring back in your locking block like so, and then make sure that your slide lock is pushed against the wall of the frame, and then just drop your locking block in. And this is why it's important that the trigger pin is in the right orientation, because if not, you won't be able to get the locking block on. So I think I spun it too much and it's upside down. So that might be a little frustrating for you. It does have to be perfect. It looks like I got it in the right way, so we're just going to move this a little bit and try again. A lot of this is patience. There's not a secret to any of it, really. None of it's too hard, in my opinion. And there you go. It just drops in, and you'll know because you can look through there, and you'll just barely see the spring on the bottom, which is what holds the takedown lever and gives it pressure. So that'll be the next one we put in. You'll notice there's that little cutout. I put it in so that the lever's facing up, and that cutout will hit the spring, and then once you get it on top of the spring, just twist it, and that'll push the spring down to where you can get it in. And then just line it up again in the other hole and just give it a twist, and it'll go right back in. So now all that's put together, and we're just down to the hammer strut and the hammer strut spring and the strut base. This is going to be probably the trickiest part the first couple of times I did it, because when you put it up in there you can't really see, and you got to put it in the right spot. The easiest way I can kind of describe it is when you're pushing it in, push it in and back, and then it'll be resting on the hammer where it needs to be. And you want it'll be centered right up in between the hammer and the sear, dead center. So we'll just push that in there and up in the back. Grab the strut base, and I just push down on the back of it so that it keeps it on the gun and doesn't spring off, and then push forward with my other hand, and it snaps into place. And you'll know when you get when your trigger feels like it did. If you put the strut bar in the wrong place, you're going to have a hard trigger, or it's not going to work right. So you'll kind of know by the feel once you get it together. I'm going to put the grips back on, put the gun together, and then we'll start adjusting the trigger. And now you'll see that, the trigger worked, but now it will not reset in double action. And this is a big thing, because there's a video out there that doesn't show the adjustment of this delrin pin, and people are watching it and nothing's working. It will not reset. So what I'm going to do is put the hammer back. Put the slide back, lock the slide, keep your fingers clear here, and that way I'm just going to hold it right like this and grab my file and start filing that pin. And that is all there is to it. Let me see if I can change the light here for a second so you guys can see better. So you'll see right there on the top of the trigger there's that delrin pin, and I am just going to start filing it. And that's pretty much what you're going to do, little bit by little bit, until your trigger resets, because your trigger has to move that way a little bit more to reset. So that pin is blocking it from resetting, and that's the adjustment that I'm talking about. So now I'm just going to pause this real quick, file it down a little bit more, and come back and we'll test it to see how close I get. Alright, I was about 5 minutes in. I got it down probably 60% of the pin filed off. And I'll just finish up with you guys here. I wasn't going to use this, but I brought it out to show you guys. This is a jeweler's file. I have a set of them. I highly recommend having these if you like working on your guns. They come in so handy for so many things. Oh God, especially if you have a 1911. You need files. So just wanted to show you that. I'll go back to filing this guy down, and it should be there pretty quick. One thing I did notice about these, I think I've installed 5. On every single one I've done, the pin is, you have to file it down a good majority of the way. So I was going to file this down about halfway before I put it on, because I already pretty much knew where this is going to be at, but just for the sake of the video I didn't, so you guys could see. And we'll just take it step by step until we get the reset. Keep on filing this down. My hands have been sweating doing this on camera underneath this light and everything. So the nail file's pretty much shot out. I'm going to go ahead and finish it with the file. You don't need to, but I'm going to cheat. I did want to make it a point to show you that you can fit this trigger with a nail file and whatever tool it takes to get your grips off. So probably about 10 minutes of filing, and you'll notice works every time. And the purpose of that is, look at how tight that trigger is. I do hold the hammer a little bit because if you put pressure on it, the hammer will move. So just make sure the hammer doesn't move, and then you'll see that there's that little plays with the hammer. But if you push the hammer and lock it, there's no movement. So that's what that delrin pin's for. Now the only last adjustment is super easy. You use the Allen key that is included with the trigger and tighten that up. And then anything with screws, I'll tell you the same thing as gray guns. I use Loctite. It's worth it. You never know. So just tighten this up. And you'll see that pin starts backing itself out, and what that does is it shortens your trigger pull. So we'll keep on tightening that up until it doesn't fire. Again, this is the way I do it. Just keep on tightening. Oh, it's close right there. But I'm going to show you guys the easy way to do it is just make it go to where, like I said, it will not fire. See? Now it's right at that point where it doesn't want to go unless I really squeeze it because it's too tight. So now I'm just going to go in there and back it off a hair. And what you'll see with that now is your reset and trigger pull is insane. And that is how you finally adjust an Armory Craft trigger and install it. And then one part I forgot real quick because it doesn't bother me and I never thought of it. You'll notice that pin, the tip of it is green. So you can just take a Sharpie or some model paint or anything else and just literally dab it on once and you'll never have to worry about it again. And the coupon codes if you want to get one: Hammer 10, all caps for the straight one, Hammer 10C for the curved one. The install is the same exact thing for both. So I hope that made it easier for you guys. There's no cheesy background music, and I hope that's an easy walkthrough. Thanks everybody for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them below in the comments section. If you haven't already, please subscribe. You can do that by clicking that little circle that pops up there. And remember, if you're looking for a new pet or animal, please adopt. There's thousands of animals looking for a new home, and that home could be with you. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.